Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. It's 7:30 in the morning where I am, so I don't know where it is, where you are. Welcome to the very last Infinite Winter Roundtable. We've got Mark Flanagan, who put this whole thing together, Corey Baldoff, and Silent Dave Laird. Welcome. How is everyone?
Doing all right.
Awesome. All right, so very first question, did you all survive Infinite Winter?
Define survive.
Did you come out in one piece, Mark?
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, it's funny yes, I'm in one piece. We made it through. My family, my friends, people around me, everybody put up with me for, what has it been, 3 months? And it's been cool. Yes, survived.
Looking forward to talking about something that's not Infinite Jest for a bit.
It'll be weird.
So, Corey, what has been your Infinite Winter highlight?
I think, well, I love collecting quotes outside of the book from you guys, and I would say that I learned a ton from the Reddit. I wasn't always on there, but I really loved what people would bring up, and several times they actually would get me back on track. Like I'd be off somewhere thinking that, like, you know that mattress scene? Do you guys remember I was tweeting about it and someone was like, you don't even know. That is like the boy was in Condensa Joy and his dad and mom, but I couldn't believe that it was them because I thought that he didn't have a mom. Or like he had a totally absentee mom. So I was picturing that was Avril. And then Bro Chill, I think is his Reddit name, was talking about it and posted that amazing piece of art that Nathan, you said that was what like a fantasy to be able to draw like that or paint like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's Joy and his dad, like with the mattress in the hallway.
Yeah, I know the one.
And it's a picture. It's a painting of that. Someone did a drawing of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if it's like a watercolor or a painting. But it was maybe in an article in the New Yorker. It almost seemed like an excerpt from Infinite Jest, or it was maybe pre-Infinite Jest. Do you guys happen to know? It's like there's an excerpt in Infinite Jest that was also published, I believe, as an essay in the New Yorker.
Dave's just commented that it might be one of David Jensen's drawings.
Ooh, no. A woman did it. I could look it up.
That's really cool that you've had that interaction on Reddit. I've been pretty absent from Reddit.
Well, it was like I was like a spy going on to Reddit and not responding but learning. And then a couple of the people on Reddit are on Twitter, and so then they were trying to help me through this scene. And they're like, "You're wrong. Here, we'll help you out, guide."
Awesome. We will guide the guide.
What about you, Nathan?
What about you, Mark? I want to hear from Mark first.
Okay.
Highlight? The highlight of the whole thing?
Yeah.
Man, that's a tough one. I honestly, I don't know that there is a single highlight of the whole thing. It's kind of separate. There are different aspects of it for me. There's like the Infinite Winter experience, right? And then there's the reading itself, which in a lot of ways are two separate things, right? They're sort of the same thing. They're combined, they mesh, they interweave, but they're really, as far as the my experience of them and their, if you're looking at it in sort of a, highs and lows kind of way, they're sort of two different things because, oh my God, Infinite Jest, the reading of it just kept getting better and better and better, right? Right up until the end. And but the Infinite Winter experience was not that way. I would not say the Infinite Winter experience kept getting better and better and better. I would say I peaked maybe early on the Infinite Winter experience because because I was so, I think I was just so happy that so many people were willing to play this game,
Right.
and that it was going, it has gone so well, and everybody's participated so well, and you guys have been so amazing, and like just the whole thing, everybody did so much and played the games, and interacted with each other so well that it just crescendoed, like probably way early on, probably a month in, and then it just was sort of on autopilot and everything just kept going well, So I don't know if you can parse that, but there you go.
Cool. For me, I definitely know what my highlights weren't. It was waking up every other Monday morning and finding that a certain M. Flanagan had written exactly what I was planning to write that week. I swear it happened like 3 or 4 times. I've got this brilliant idea.
That was totally purposeful.
And you've done it.
I was just trying to steal your ideas.
But the highlight's definitely been hearing so many different perspectives on the book and ideas and insights from a huge range of people from all around the world, different backgrounds. Things I've never thought of before in the book myself. It's been really eye-opening. Yeah.
Can you remember one that really stood out?
There were a few quite early on that it was like a light bulb going on, that things that seemed like they should have been so obvious to me, but I can't remember what they are at the moment.
That's all right.
A couple of people have said things about Oren being Mario's father, which I'm not sure it works out on a timeline, but that's an interesting idea as well that I'd never thought of before.
That's cool. It's funny.
He'd be 8. Oren would, says Dave.
He might be. We're trying to. I was going to be an audio interpreter.
You're going to read Dave's.
So that was Infinite Winter. What's been the most memorable thing from the book this time around? You have to answer, Corey, because you're on the big screen.
I'm on the what?
You're on the big screen.
Oh, okay.
Be very careful about making sound because then it gets you on the big screen. Dave does.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I guess I'll start by saying for all of these questions, I'm having difficulty narrowing down to one thing. I guess the first thing that jumps into my mind is while I really enjoyed reading this round, there would be times that I was more frustrated reading the book than I was reading the posts or the Reddit or the things people were saying on Twitter. And so this was my third read. And the first read, I was frustrated for different reasons because I wouldn't know what was going on, or there'd be a scary scene and I'd want to keep reading, but I couldn't read at night or first thing in the morning. So I'd have to stop. And then this third round, I might have been frustrated. I can't explain it. I think I had Infinite Jest anger management problems. Is that so? That I'm telling you my favorite part.
Cool.
I don't know. That's what I've got right now. I guess I needed some anger management practice in my life.
What about you, Mark?
That's hard to say because oftentimes my favorite part is whatever the really good part was that I recently read. Just because of the way my memory works, or doesn't, because it kind of blots out whatever the really good part I read 2 weeks ago was. So right now, at this very moment, I'm going to have to, it's weird because I'm going to have to go with the with Gately's Bottom and Mount Dilaudid as my favorite part right now.
How did you take that in this time? Like, what could you describe what it was like reading those scenes?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was intense. It was absolutely, it was like a nonstop action movie.
Yeah.
I was like riveted to it the whole time, like, mouth agape, just like, watching it go down, and I mean, and it's so funny because it's serious and it's horrifying at the same time that it's also funny, because he does that, like with Fackelman, basically just barely being able to get out is a goddamn lie, the whole time.
The whole Linda McCartney thing.
Yeah, the Linda McCartney thing. Yeah.
Did you place yourself in that room? Like, where were you observing the action from? Do you know?
Well, I think mostly from it was from Gately's perspective. So I think I was assuming Gately's perspective.
Same. Like, were you like falling on the ground and standing up?
Yeah, the attack of the killer sidewalks.
Yeah.
In fact, the worst part that made me the most uncomfortable was the urine.
Yeah, the pool.
Yeah, the pool of urine. Then I was like, oh, this sucks.
Do you have hardwood floors, Mark?
Yeah, but I don't pee on them.
Yeah, man. So, oh wow. Yeah, and I guess if we were Gately, we were right in it.
Dave said maybe you should.
Oh man. Well,
it's funny that you mentioned that scene in memory, Mark, because I mentioned that scene in my post this week. The whole Mount Dilaudid and Linda McCartney and Fackelman and everything, and I did most of my post from memory, and someone called me out on this. I'd said
Skittles.
there were Skittles on the floor, not peanut M&Ms.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when I saw that.
I did as well.
So everyone noticed, but in my head, I just put Skittles on that floor instead. peanut
I thought that was a
M&Ms.
great idea.
I just figured Skittles was Australian for peanut M&Ms.
Do you know what Skittles are?
Yeah, no, I do. I'm just kidding.
Okay, cool.
Nathan, when you said Skittles, I just went right along with it. And then when you got that response, I was like, oh yeah. But I don't know. I have a lot of experience smashing Skittles.
Yeah.
And so those colors. Oh, what?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Dave.
Oh yeah.
Welcome.
Tech Dave.
Yep,
It's my audio assistant. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I'm on a totally different computer and it works now.
Wait, is that Dave who's also read Infinite Jest?
No, he hasn't. But he'd like to, right, Dave? Yeah. One day.
Oh man, thanks for your help, Dave.
Yay, Dave.
Audiobook. He's got like a free audiobook, I think, so. Which I've been listening to, the audiobook.
How is that?
Yeah. Got to Video Phony the other day. It's pretty great. I think we're going to have Sean Pratt as a guest in the very near future on Concavity. The guy who narrates it.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah.
Can you imitate his voice?
He does like impressions, like he does different voices for every character. So Mario, he's like, "Hey, Hal, why do you think like he does this kind of like pathetic voice for Mario?"
Uh-huh.
And then for Idris Arslanian, he does like an East Indian accent, which is you're kind of a bit like, "Oh, is that okay? I don't know."
Right.
But he does a great job. Like his narration is really engaging and interesting. So I've been enjoying it a lot. Yeah.
I'll have to check it out. But
He's
isn't that a critique of Wallace also? Like, yeah, like nice try with the accents, but you're doing it in a pejorative way.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the big like conversations about this book is that, you know, could some of the stuff in it, especially like the N-word appears I don't know how many times, but probably well in like the 20s, 30s, or 40s. It's quite often. And then the how he calls Asian people slants. Or
and
a character does, right? You know, and like sometimes it's hard to separate the narrator's perspective from like lenses or gaze. So there are a lot of moments where you're like, oh, there's a lot of really sketchy racial stuff happening here.
But it's the narrator, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's the narrator, and then sometimes it's like the character who's being narrated about, and it's obviously like from their kind of voice in a way, even though it's in third person.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if some of that stuff could get published nowadays if Infinite Jest were to go through an editor today.
Wow, yeah.
That's
And
like
is it?
question that I have.
That's a question you have, like if the imitations would be cut or altered.
Like in the book or in the audiobook reading of it.
Oh, what
Maybe.
were you referring to?
It's problematic in some ways, I think, but yeah,
In
I
the audio?
was referring to the text itself, to the novel itself. Like if
That's-
Michael were to edit today, would he have allowed some of those racial parts to be in it?
Mm.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, did you guys pick up on, like, there's someone at Enfield that Hal keeps saying is yellow? Is that a racist reference or about jaundice? It's I can't figure. It feels racist, like in the opening pages, and then it happens like throughout the book.
In the opening pages, I think it definitely says jaundiced at one point.
Okay.
That one of these old deans is kind of like jaundiced and like yellowed.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was University of Arizona.
What's that?
That was his University of Arizona interview.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay. Hmm.
I'm just skimming. Does say Yellow Dean quite a bit.
I think it happens later on as well, like about someone else. So maybe a lot of people have jaundice.
Yeah, I mean, like this. I mean, these chemically troubled times. Lots of alcohol flowing, as well as narcotics. So
Right, right.
because that can be a feature of heavy alcoholism, right, John?
I think so. Yeah. It's
It
like
can
an
be,
immune.
it can be a feature of when the liver goes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Probably not, still not good to refer to someone as a yellow person.
Yeah, probably best to err on the side of caution with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Dave, while we're on the question, what's been the highlight of the read for you this time around?
So in terms of like the community aspect of it, or like just the text itself, like what parts of the book have?
Are you feeling up to tackle both?
Oh yeah, I can talk about both. The highlight of the community read maybe would be like the sheer number of tweets and retweets and likes that Corey Baldoff does.
Ah!
I just feel so affirmed every time one of my posts goes up, and like I get tons of notifications about Corey retweeting it and like commenting on it. So thanks, Corey, for making me feel like I'm a good writer or something.
You are
I have
welcome.
found that no one does pull quotes as well as Corey does.
Yep.
I've learned that.
That's really good too, for sure. And I've had such a blast reading your guys' posts every day. Like I wake up in the morning and like one of the first things that I do is read the Infinite Winter post for that morning. And yeah, like you were just saying, Nathan, my audio wasn't working. Like Mark seems to have hit like some really good topics that I was planning to do on as well. And you're like, Mark Flanagan. So
Why do you think I put myself first?
yeah, that was very smart, Mark. Because you get the first original crack at everything. That's good. Yeah, so I really love that. That's been
I
great.
What's
I
that,
learned very
Nathan?
early on not to write my post before Mark's went up.
Mm.
I learned very on in Infinite Winter not to write my post before Mark's went up.
Yeah, totally.
I don't
That's
know,
fun.
maybe better strategy might be to write it before mine goes up and then just go with it, man.
Just pre-publish it and then Mark has to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. NB, I wrote this before Mike did.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, give me the credit. Totally. And then textually, I would say the highlight for me of Infinite Winter, it's been great because my wife Rachel's been reading it, and she just finished it yesterday, and her mom just finished it last week. So
Wow.
talking to them in real life about the book has been really fun, and just like reading quotes to Rachel, like, "Oh, Rach, check this out," and then we'll laugh together about it, and she'll also be like, "Stop bugging me all the time." She's cool with it, but that's been really fun just to have that. We had a really funny text thread yesterday. She went to New York the other day to visit a friend. She texted me, "I just finished Infinite Jest when we landed. What's the deal with the ending? Like, is there a missing chapter or something?"
That's awesome.
And I was like, no, but like the ending is kind of like clued throughout the book, and that's sort of what I wrote about the other day on Friday, was that it doesn't, like the first time I read it, I was like, that's the ending? Are you kidding me? Like, so disappointed. But then after you read it again, or you talk to people about it, you can start to put the pieces together and realize like, oh, the ending's built in throughout the whole book, and it's just you have to do the kind of like homework after to figure it out, which is actually a really fun and satisfying thing. So I've been reading like theories this week about what happens, and this whole thing about like Hal's toothbrush and the Wraith like finding Pemulus's stash of DMZ in this like ceiling tiles, and then like drugging Hal's toothbrush with the DMZ. It's not something that I like ever caught on any three of my reads of it. Like even this time, I was like, okay, Hal's got the NASA glass and his toothbrush a lot, but where is it that the Wraith like does this action? And I didn't ever occur to me. So now I kind of have to go back and try and figure that out more and see if I can find evidence for it. But
Oh!
I've seen that. I'm sorry, go ahead. Corey had way too much energy there. Go ahead, Corey.
So when they're at the window and Hal's gonna like do some surgery, but he doesn't know? Isn't that when he's like gripping the wall? Like, wait, he's gripping the walls and like freaking out, and I thought he was having a panic attack, but he had the glass. He had the NASA glass because he sets it down and walks away. Like, he sets down the glass at the windowsill.
Yeah, I don't know if he walks away from it, but he does set it down with his toothbrush in it.
Oh, but he stays by the window the whole time?
Well, I think he's there trying to pull Stice's face off the window.
Yeah.
I think doesn't he go to find the maintenance guys though?
Oh yeah, Kenkel and
Yeah.
Grant. Which are they supposed to be? They're supposed to be like the grave keepers from Hamlet, essentially, right?
Whoa, yeah, I guess I'm still learning.
Those two guys seem like straight out of like early-ish kind of pension to me.
Yeah.
Did you say that in your post?
Yeah.
Yeah, thought so.
I can imagine them showing up in like V. Those two guys.
Okay, I haven't read V, but I've read like Gravity's Rainbow and Crying of Lot 49, Inherent Vice. But yeah, they're pretty kooky.
So here's the thing with that whole like the Wraith takes the DMZ and doses Hal's toothbrush with the DMZ. I read that before and like I looked for stuff to support that. I mean, but besides like it seems like a huge reach to me just because yeah the ceiling tile fell in and so the cap, I don't know if the DMZ disappeared from the cap or whatever. Hal carries his toothbrush around, but doesn't it seem like a little bit of a reach? Like where and why?
I think to try and get him to talk, to try and get Hal out of himself is the idea, or like the motivation.
Yeah, and I remember I think I read that, and that makes I understand that that's what JOI wants to do, but I just don't know, man. It just seems like we're making stuff up when we say that.
Yeah, like I don't recall a part where that could have happened, that his toothbrush is drugged by the Wraith or whatever.
Would you guys agree though that Joyce does seem to be creeping around?
Oh yeah, like the camera, you know, the scene with the USS Millicent Kent and Mario in the woods, and then there's just the tripod in the middle of the woods.
And the Bolex.
Porthos dead, just like weirdly moving and pinning to the ceiling. The rooms in the cafeteria, like forming the X, and everyone being pretty weirded out.
And Stice getting stuck.
What's that?
And Stice getting stuck to the window.
Yeah, and when he feels that presence behind him.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they talk about ghosts, and then Hal's like Mario believes in like spiritual beings, and that guy like can be trusted, you know.
Oh yeah, Hal's like I'm not gonna go against it because of Mario. Like he's like Mario doesn't lie.
Mario has like an insight into the spiritual realm or something. Like my view on Mario is pretty elevated, and I'm sort of arguing about him in the thesis that like he's sort of Christological. And my supervisor refers to it as the Super Mario chapter. Arguing that Mario is like Super Mario. So I got to be careful about how I frame that. But
Christological?
Yeah, like Christ. You know,
okay.
I just want to do a shout out to Nathan's tripod drawing.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Dude, yes.
I just picture it in my head.
Yeah, speaking.
Also, have you guys
Speaking of Mario and the Wraith kind of popping up through the book, there are plenty of scenes where a word will pop into Mario's head, kind of out of nowhere, and that seems like JOI is doing.
Incepting.
I remember like a week or two ago when I was reading, you know, the scene where Hal goes into one of the video rooms to isolate and he watches a few of James's old movies.
Yep.
And we get like the massive long description of Blood Sister, One Tough Nun.
Yeah.
And like all the way through this scene, Hal's trying to remember the name of a kid or the really boring monologue guy who was in a few of James's movies.
Hmm.
And like Blood Sister finishes, and the name just like pops into his head,
Is it Cosgrove what?
just out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Wait, what pops into your
Smothergill. The name Smothergill.
The name of the actor, yeah.
Canadian filmmaker named Fothergill. And so I think Mother is like a funny like twist on that. Like, did you ever see that Modern Family episode where the dad is talking about how like the reason they call it like the word smothering has mother embedded in it, but you never hear the word father.
Whoa! Is there a card for that?
Probably. I'm sure someone's made it. It's like Mothergill and Fothergill or mine like that.
And you said that's a Canadian director?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like, I took a Canadian film course in my undergrad in like 2006 or something. And my teacher for that course is my current master supervisor, who reminds me of James and Candenza. You know, like super, like 6'7", and like I talked about this last roundtable. And I remember that name coming up quite a bit of Fothergill. So I think it's a play on that.
Huh. And then Mario's favorite is the businessman that loses his job for the boy with the packages.
Yeah. Wave goodbye to the bureaucrat. Is that it?
Yeah.
Like, it's basically like a Mormon PSA. It feels like, I think, is the comment. Like, it's so wholesome.
I think it feels terrible. It's like it's torturous. It's like that man just like kills himself to pick up a guy's boxes.
Yeah. Didn't seem worth the trade.
I mean, I guess in the end it appears that he comes out a better person, but I don't know. That was like self-deprecation 100%, I think.
Yeah. I just started reading The Pale King like 2 years ago. Like I read it when it first came out, and I feel like I haven't been very fresh on it. But there's so many things in The Pale King already that are callbacks to Infinite Jest. That
Whoa.
Really fun. Like, even in the first 20 pages. I'll go grab it and give you guys a couple examples if I can find them. But like, some of the terminology and stuff is like very specific. To Jest. It's really cool.
While Dave's grabbing his examples, there is one example or parallel that struck me. There's a character in the Pale King nicknamed Type of Thing, and Wallace drops in like this nickname early on, and you don't know why until you get like a transcript of an interview with him, and like in every other sentence he sticks in the phrase type of thing. Like it's a really annoying tick he has.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like when one of the Enid House residents, I'm trying to remember who, visits Gately, and like in every other sentence he says and everything like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Also, it's Yours Truly. Remember where C gets the hot shot with Tony Krause and Yours Truly? Yeah. Which Yours Truly is Emil Minty from Enid House.
Right.
And he always, in that section where C dies, he always says and everything like that. So I think that's the connection, maybe.
Huh.
Tiny Ewell visits Gately in the hospital and gives that long story.
Yeah, Tiny Ewell talks about
this.
I love Tiny Ewell's story when he visits Gately about the Steelers Club.
That's what? The Money Stealers Club? Is that what the exact phrase is?
Yeah.
Wait, remind me.
Yeah, I don't remember that part.
They go around house to house, the Irish kids, and he gives the like youth hockey, program that they do, and just gets tons of cash, and then he just starts buying candy with it and like comics and stuff. And then
what? And then something really bad happens.
Yeah, he's racked by like Dostoevsky and guilt, like crime and punishment level guilt for months, and he doesn't come out of his house because the kids are gonna beat him up and stuff. Part's so good.
Whoa, that part felt terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, well, one of Nathan's questions. So, Dave, you said Pale King nods back. Would you recommend that as a good next read?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, if you're not burnt out on like long things, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
If you need like something lighter and you need a break, read something shorter. Read like Consider the Lobster or Supposedly Fun Thing or something. But if you feel like you get to the end of Infinite Jest and you're like, I just need more Wallace, like maximalist Wallace, because you get very addicted to it, right? And anything else after that just feels kind of lame. In a way, it was kind of my experience after the first time I read it. So yeah, it'd be a good thing to go straight into if you just want more, for sure. And like stylistically, I just read a sentence yesterday that's like 3 pages long, one whole sentence, and just
Wow.
the way that it creates anxiety in the run-on nature of the form is so potent and interesting and works really well for what it's trying to accomplish.
Hmm.
I'm trying to find specific examples of phrases that are also used, but I can't actually find any, and they're escaping my mind, but hopefully they'll come to me.
Dave brought something up which about the Wraith putting words in Mario's head. And that reminded me that the interaction between Gately and the Wraith was definitely one of my favorite parts. Like when Gately's getting words put in his head.
So good.
That was amazing. And then the whole time thing, the whole temporal shift deal, between the living and the dead. I love that. And there's Gately's coming up with these words and these sentences that he wouldn't normally say. There's a lot of really interesting stuff about narration and actually some stuff that when are we going to get to the part of the conversation where I get to ask questions?
Now.
Right now.
I have questions, man. I mean, I'll tell you this one. Actually, just let me tell you this one question. There was this one. Oh, it was right before the Loach section, the Barry Loach section.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, there are
that section is so good as well.
There are some
I know.
narration parts. But that one, right when it wasn't Barry Loach's part, it was the part where they see him down there taping, okay? Barry Loach is in the locker room taping. This is right before the AFR is going to come in, right? And Barry Loach is down there in the locker room taping, and it says, oh man, where is it? I had it marked right here somewhere. It says, whoever is narrating says Barry Loach is taping Hal's ankle.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's. Is your question how's that happening?
No, my question is who the fuck is narrating that?
I had this exact conversation with my mother-in-law the other day.
Did you say it that way?
We were trying to. Yeah, because she said something about someone's described as walking around like Frankenstein, and she's like, it's Frankenstein's monster. I'm really surprised Wallace made that slip up. I had a look at it. I'm like, it must be one of the ETA kids narrating this bit, but I can't for the life of me figure out who.
Well, there's a weird thing that happens.
Do you know the page number, Mark?
Yeah, I do actually now. It's on page 966, and it says, several people talked to themselves at their lockers. Barry Loach was down on one knee shaving Hal's left ankle for tape. A couple of us remarked how Hal wasn't eating the usual customary Snickers bar or Amino Pal. And this whole, you can see the difference in the way.
That's the sentence I was trying to look for, because it's a couple of us.
Oh yeah,
it says a couple of us. That's why I think it must be one of the kids.
Yeah, but we don't know who it is.
Could it be his? How early does he get his group of students that he's the mentor for a group of students?
Oh, the Big Buddies?
Big buddies.
Yeah.
It's well before November. So this was 20 November. The Big Buddies are like, let's see.
It's like really early in the book.
Yeah, and I think early in the year too.
Yeah.
Could it be them, like kind of his entourage?
It's interesting, man. I don't know.
This brings up the thing that there's also a weird shift in narration for Hal where he goes to first person towards the end of the book, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then also Year of Glad, like the very opening of the book is first person too, like I am sitting in an office. So I've heard, like, I think I saw somewhere online that the idea there is that Hal is like trying to recover from his addiction, and once he's starting to get a grip on it, his narrative voice changes to first person because now he's becoming like whole, something to that effect, which I think is a really interesting idea. It seems viable to me that that's maybe what's going on, but
I like that idea.
hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it has something to do with like being present or kind of, you know, immediate in like a capital I kind of way maybe. Because we get all these moments, like I think I talked about it in one of my recent posts, like in Year of Glad when Hal is talking about when he ate the mold, like he's not remembering he's not remembering eating the mold. He's talking about Oren talking about what Oren remembers of Hal eating the mold.
Right.
So there's like all these layers of mediation between that event and like Hal's experience.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the novel, when Hal gets to first person, this kind of like all this mediation and distance kind of collapses.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't he even say at one point like that he might not even remember, that it's just like Oren's fed memory?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. And of course, Oren tells a story himself later in the book, which of course we don't hear direct from Oren. We get it in a transcript by Hugh Steepley posing as Helen Steepley, and like Oren's version of the story is completely different in that telling.
Mm.
Is that the one where he's like talking about the jewelry? Wait, is that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Meow.
Mark, I think in your post this week you made a comment about Hal's second hospital visit. Is that correct? So we're trying to connect the dots between Hal and Gately. How did they end up in the graveyard together?
Yeah.
Like, what's the connection?
Okay.
What's your theory on that?
Okay, so Dave, I don't have a theory. But I did have a question about your post because, okay, so I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but I do know that I was talking about the dream that Gately was having, right? About, you know, the sad kid and we have to dig up the body, and over here we've got, I don't even know if Gately mentions the Canadian kid, maybe he does. But Hal mentions him early on, right? You mentioned it also this week, and you said that Hal. Oh man, what did you say? It was like you were, the way you mentioned it was you were saying that Hal was saying that was in his future. You were saying that we know what's going to happen afterwards because Hal mentions this like it was in the future. Is that what you were?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Because I was thinking, okay, so in the beginning, in the first pages, in the Year of Glad, I recall that as being something that happened already. We see Hal at the U of A after that happened.
Right.
Am I wrong about that? Because the way you posted about it,
Yeah.
it seemed like you seemed to indicate that it was in the future.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just confused as anybody about all this. But the thing about that Gately hears about it would be right. But I guess when Gately is having like the vision of the
Dream. Yeah.
that would be future for Gately. And then Yeah, I'm probably very much mistaken there then. I probably conflated the two. And but I can't remember what the tense is. I don't have the novel with me because I'm in a different city right now. But what's like the tense in Hal's version of it? Because he said something about Wayne, like Wayne would have won the Whataburger this year.
Yes, Wayne would have won. Here it is right here.
Page 16, 17.
Yeah, I think of John N.R. Wayne, who would have won this year's Whataburger. Okay, so let me interject first of all. How can Wayne still be? How long after the end of the book? Not the end of the book, but how long after we last see Hal in the end of the book is the Year of Glad? Is my question. First of all.
Well, I think what month is Hal? What month is the Whataburger? Isn't it like November or something?
Yeah. So is it the next November after we see Hal falling apart with Stice's head stuck to the window?
I think so. I think it's about a year. That's my guess on it.
Okay, so John N.R. Wayne is...
Yeah, and I think in...
So
I think in Year of Glad as well, he says his last hospital visit was like a year ago, which would kind of coincide with his breakdown at the end of the novel.
Okay. So anyway, so John N.R. Wayne, who would have won this year's Whataburger, standing watching the mask as Donald Gately and I dig up my father's head. Okay, now first of all, how is there still a head?
Like
the skull can't explode.
The way that it was described in the book was that there was this huge mess, right? When he was talking to Orrin about it, and I was thinking, that's head everywhere.
Right.
That's head, but not skull.
Okay, so it just blows out his ears.
Let me find this for you.
That's a minor point. I mean, the major point is how do we get from where Hal's falling apart at the end of the book to him and Gately and Wayne, of all people.
Joel,
right?
you in Gately's version of it, right?
Both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them mention... No, Gately doesn't mention Wayne. I think Hal mentions Wayne.
Yeah, Gately mentions Joel being there.
He does?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, let's find that.
So my assumption is that Hal and Gately get connected through Joel because of Joel's connections to the Incandenza family.
Or through Annette House. Maybe Hal ends up at Annette.
Yeah, that's possible. We know Mario's been there.
Right?
I think there's a reference to Hal. Okay, so Hal goes to that that building with all the orange, and someone tricks him into going to a group meeting. And he thinks it's going to be for addiction, but it's for the inner child. But I think doesn't that link him up with Annette? Or like, is there a scene where he's in Annette House?
Yeah, he goes there to get the meeting list from what's her name?
Is it Clonette Henderson?
No, it's another one.
Oh, and is that like a book, like an old catalog?
Jonette?
Oh, Jonette Foltz. Oh yeah, that's him.
Jonette Foltz.
She gives him the meeting list.
Him as like super preppy, and he's got like the ETA clothes and her.
She's commenting on it.
But yeah, it's outdated information that he gets because the pamphlet is from like a year ago. So he shows up to this group, and it's like something like a totally different group now.
Yeah.
But Mark, thank you for that question because I'm gonna go back and reread my post now and probably make some changes to it, which is great that the blog format allows for it. It's not fixed forever. But I think you're right in that I'm totally wrong about how I phrased that.
It's freaking me out, man. I was like, holy crap, what?
So I might put like an outline of errata or something on that post. Like, oh, I was under duress when I wrote this.
Right. I don't think. Joelle's at the scene of the digging up in Gately's version.
She's not.
It's just him and the sad kid, Hal. Oh no, you're right. Joelle Van D appears with wings and no underwear.
Yeah. So whatever that means.
What page is that?
934. That's Gately's dream.
Wow.
So then, you gotta wonder if it's Gately's dream if the Wraith put this in his head.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's the assumption, I think, that he's incepting this future moment.
Yeah.
If we're wondering how they were able to recover James's head, I've got this from page 3031, and apologies because there's a lot of long words that I'm not going to pronounce correctly in this. That your quote-unquote complimentary Dunlop wide-body tennis rackets, super secret formulaic composition materials of high modulus graphite reinforced polycarbonate polybutylene resin are organochemically identical, I say again, identical to the gyroscopic balance center and mise-en-scene appropriation card and priapistic entertainment cartridge implanted in your very own towering father's anaplastic cerebrum.
Wow.
So there's a whole bunch of stuff in James's head, basically.
Oh, yeah?
What page is that?
Trove.
3031.
3031.
Wow.
But and so, like in Hamlet, poor Yorick's skull is the skull that Hamlet's holding up, talking to, and he's the fellow of Infinite Jest, the court jester that he knew, right?
Right.
Like the significance of JOI's skull being full of like the entertainment, in the same way that a court jester's skull is full of entertainment. That's kind of a commonality.
Whoa. Man.
And how awesome is it that one of Incandenza's production companies is called Paul Yorick Entertainment Unlimited?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it spells it right out for us. So good.
Who says this?
Like on the quote.
This is James talking on page 30. The man
Lenny-
himself.
Then he's referring to himself when he says, "To your very own towering father."
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, Nathan, that's a
Yeah,
still
he's
life.
talking about his own head there.
That's freaking awesome. Oh yeah, this is the conversation.
Hey, guys, should we grab some of these questions?
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
We're just
Yes, I want to photo a couple of written questions.
the ending. And we're the guides. Awesome.
So we had a couple of questions. We had a couple of questions from Heather Wells. One of the questions was all about who do we think drugged how with the DMZ, as we say down under here. We talked about that a bit earlier, but she also asks, why do you think DFW chose to end the book the way he did, leaving so much open to interpretation about what happened after the events in the book?
The thought that I was having in this read was that there's this transitional stage happening for a lot of characters, and I actually got a lot of I'll call it closure from the Barry Loach, is that how you say it, scene?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's open from the standpoint of everyone in the book has these compulsions and addictions that they're off-roaded by, but it's like some people are starting to get back on their track or back to themselves, and from the standpoint of the characters still being alive, like you don't know which way it'll go. But I'm also the least savvy at the timeline, and I love hearing how you guys react. So I don't know how would you guys answer that question?
Mark?
Me?
Like,
So-
why do you think it's open-ended?
So here's what I think. I don't. It's very frustrating that it's open-ended like that. But I think, and I don't know that I'm going to speak to this very well, but I think it's because of this whole idea of this circle or annular, right, structure, right,
Yeah.
that it goes around and around, and the idea of having it start at the end and having it end somewhere along that circle
Whoa.
is part of that structure.
Yeah.
I don't have much better than that, except that we have all these intersecting stories, and the fact of the matter is, the way they come together, the way they're structured, they couldn't possibly end all together. So each character is maybe logical where they end up is sort of along its own path on that circle.
Right.
But there are smarter people in the room than me, so let's hear some more ideas.
It'd be cool if we were all in the same room for real. One day.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I think the ending is like, and the structure of the novel is just like, it's very postmodern, right? So like, postmodern novels after World War II tend not to be really always that straightforward. If you think of like Faulkner or something like The Sound and the Fury, you have these 4 different narratives from different perspectives that are like really hard to figure out, and unless you read it like in a literature class, you're probably gonna have a hard time dealing with like what is going on in this book. Gravity's Rainbow would be another example, I think, of just like, how do I figure out this bizarre structure and form? So in that sense, I think it's just like a genre convention. On another level, I think that the way that Wallace talks about literature to Larry McCaffrey in '93 in that interview is like the stuff about, good fiction makes the reader work hard to access its pleasures. And so Wallace certainly is like making us work for it, to try and tease out the meaning and figure out what's actually happening. So it's maybe a bit misanthropic of him to like give us this really hard puzzle to figure out. But I don't know if the book would be like as satisfying and maybe as long-lasting as if it had just been like a clean chronology and ending, and like we get all the closure. I think it makes it more timeless this way because it's more of you have to solve a lot more, which makes it more engaging and I think like more fun to talk about.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And it keeps it present, like the characters are maybe still existing, or I feel like that keeps us with the timeline or keeps it more timeless.
Mm-hmm. There's also, I think, a kind of like verisimilitude with that too, in that life doesn't always get clean endings, and timelines in life, the way that you remember things and the way that your memories recur at different weird times in your life. There's kind of like a psychological accuracy to the way that the structure is, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of the nails have been hit upon the head by you there, Dave.
So I blew my
other thing,
but I got that a little bit.
The only other thing I might add, like on a metafictional kind of level, is that the text is kind of literally open-ended in a way, which if you compare it to when the Wraith is talking to Gately about like the corners of a camera and like the edges of a narrative, by being so open-ended and making the reader work, Wallace like literally is removing the bounds of the text from the text itself.
Ooh.
Good, I like that.
Yeah. Do you guys know Avedon's photographs?
No.
They're like these fashion photographs where he like zooms out and grabs like stuff that's going on in the studio outside of this like 20-foot gray backdrop.
Kind of like that. Yeah, that's cool.
All right, I've got two more questions from readers I'll throw to. One comes from Cara, and she says, "Who do you think helped Joelle get into Annette House and make it so she didn't need to find a job and organise to have special food brought in for her?" So who was pulling the wires there?
Wasn't it the same woman that like led Hal astray? Because Gately would borrow the car from her, and he had to go get supplies.
Pat Montesian?
Yeah.
But
Right?
there was. Is she saying is Kara suggesting that there was somebody else above and beyond Pat Montesian who came to Pat Montesian and said, "Hey, we need to treat this person's special somehow"?
Oh yeah, because she got in like above other people on the list.
Right.
Yeah, no waiting list or anything.
I think it talks about it, but I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it ever says a name or not. Do you guys?
Does it help that so when Mario's like waiting for her to come back as Madame's Psychosis, like they keep playing the airtime, so it implies to me that someone that is affiliated with that show is keeping that going. Like it's almost like she's taking a leave of absence. Maybe she got a research leave. No, I don't know.
And then we get misdiagnosis filling in.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't that could lead us to, like, somehow she is, I guess, even though we don't have the answer, she is definitely, like, cushioned and supported to go there.
Yeah, I don't remember. Can't think of it.
I think it possibly had something to do with kind of the Incondenser trust, because she was obviously left a lot of money by James, and the Incondensers, or ETA anyway, are paying full rent on the building they pretty much destroyed in the complex where Annette House is.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, for sure.
That is. Wow.
Avril.
Maybe.
Whoa. I don't know.
That would be a big example of Avril rising above.
Avril what?
But Avril is a bit of just kind of, that idiom rising above. But I was going to say Avril is a bit of a self-made martyr throughout the book, so might be another example of that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I like that explanation.
All right. I've got one more reader question, and it might actually be an opportunity for us to help someone out.
Oh, good.
Jean Patton.
We need a lot of help ourselves. It's good though, I think,
Jean Patton writes.
We're fallible.
So Jean Patton writes, "I've offered to do a book review of IJ for the annual summer reading list where I work, an international conservation organization with 3,000 employees. How am I going to do it in 500 to 600 words?"
That's good.
You're going to breeze over the top of it.
Mark, you do this for a living.
That would be a stretch, Nathan, but I do it. Yes. I think it's perfectly possible to write something about Infinite Jest in 500 to 600 words.
Yeah.
You don't end up. I mean, First of all, I would question the idea of reviewing Infinite Jest. You know, at this point, I think it's proven itself, and it doesn't necessarily need your review. That said, you can write something about it to compel your group of however many people that they may or may not want to read it, or give them a hint as to what the experience of reading Infinite Jest is like. And you know, breezing over, I suppose, some of the key themes and yeah.
Yeah.
So review the experience.
Mm.
No?
When you pick up a copy of Infinite Jest, when people ask me about Infinite Jest, like, oh, what's it about? I'm usually like,
Yeah, what's the elevator pitch?
what's what?
What's the elevator pitch for Infinite Jest?
I usually start big, so I give them like the macro view of what's happening in North America, and then I zoom in. So I usually say like, it's a book that's set in kind of a semi-distant future where Canada, the U.S., and Mexico have joined a political union, and America is kind of like, you know, the leader of that, and they've created this like nuclear waste site in northeastern U.S. that blows like nuclear waste up into Canada, and so.
Do you say Great Concavity there?
No, I don't. That would be too shameless a plug, I think, maybe. I might say called the Great Concavity in some versions. And then I say, and then meanwhile, there's a tennis academy in Boston and a recovery house in Boston that are like down and up the hill from each other. And there's some tennis kids, and there's this recovering drug addict named Don, and the kid's house father has made this film, and there's terrorists from Quebec who are trying to get a copy of this film because they hate America for all the environmental damage that it's done. And so there's like this terrorist plot, and there's all this stuff about tennis and addiction, and they all form this kind of like intense amalgam.
Gene Patton, did you get that? I think that's your review right there. I think they just wrote it for you.
There you go, for free.
For free.
What about the seminary? Because it's like next door to Enid House. Do we get any more of the seminary outside of the like just a backstory on Barry Loach?
I remember there's a description of kind of the neighborhood and all the buildings. There might be a brief mention of the seminary. I can't remember, but I think it could be possible.
So would we not include that in the big overview, because that's sort of like every character has come from somewhere other than these three main storylines?
Do you mean the seminary specifically being worth mentioning?
Well,
The major overview of the book?
Never mind.
I think thematically I would agree with that very much, because I think there's a lot of like theological stuff happening. And like in the scene, like the Grand Inquisitor scene with Barry and his brother working through like, you know, what's human nature all about? Is it essentially good or essentially awful and fallen, evil? That's pretty much, I think, a big conversation in Infinite Jest, you know, those kinds of questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could add that to your review, yes, for sure. Dostoevskian inquisition into the nature of humanity.
Yeah. Yep. So this is kind of my answer to Gene and my wrap up all in one. We've only got 1 week of posts left for Infinite Winter. Us guys are going to torture ourselves and try to come up with a way to summarize everything and the whole experience ourselves.
What?
So Gene, Mark, yours will be tomorrow, I think. So have fun with that. But Gene, still shamelessly.
Oh, maybe Sorry. I have a lot more time than you think I do, Nathan, just because of time travel.
Cool. Lord Trout over here.
Are you a wraith?
Oh, sorry. Were you asking, was that a question? Were you asking me a question? Was there a question posed to me?
I said, are you a wraith?
Am I a
Right.
Right. I am right.
So am I.
It's funny. I was reading something the other day,
Cool.
and
So
the word
closing
on the page
thoughts.
was wrath, and I couldn't read it in anything else but wraith. It took me like 3 times to figure out the word was wrath.
That's awesome.
It was not Infinite Jest.
Is that the book we should read next?
Oh God, that's a good question, huh? No.
Okay.
Yesterday we recorded an episode with Josh Royland and his class of 5 students who just finished an entire class on Wallace. And one of the questions that we asked is, so like, what are you going to read next now that this class is over? And you don't have to read Wallace. Like, what book is next on your list? And it was fun to hear. Some of them were like more Wallace because we didn't read everything, but I'm going to like start The Pale King. And then some people were like, I'm just going to read like something totally different. Like I got some nonfiction stuff lined up, some poetry stuff lined up. So that was kind of. But I think that's a fun question. Like, what do you read after this book that could be satisfying?
I would venture that it's not a novel. For me, anyway.
Infinite Jest.
That what I read next is
What you read next won't be a novel. Yeah, I gotcha.
nonfiction. Actually, probably best. Cleanse the palate, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mark, if you're looking for something that's not a novel, but by a writer that Wallace really admired, there's a book by David Markson called "This Is Not a Novel."
I want to read that. That's
I don't know
list.
if you've read that.
I haven't read any Markson, but I'm going to.
Really cool.
Is that the book that you guys were talking about on the last Concavity show, Dave?
Yeah, we talked a lot about Markson.
I heard you talk about Markson. I couldn't follow it because I was not familiar with him.
Yeah. So The Empty Plenum, which is Wallace's review of Wittgenstein's Mistress, is a David Markson book. So I've always meant to go back and find Wittgenstein's Mistress and read it, but I just haven't ever seen it around yet or intentionally sought it out. But I'm going to.
So Nathan, is this a philosophically heavy book?
It's part of a quintet, or I think Markson called it a tetralogy or something. The whole novel is like written in little sentences and factoids. What he did when he was writing them is he just wrote all these things down on note cards and spent years collecting them and shuffling them and like putting them into an order that kind of conformed to a structure that meant something to him, but made a strong narrative as well.
This is not a novel.
It's not a novel, but it's not nonfiction.
Is it? And is there a Magritte painting on the cover?
The pipe?
Yeah.
N'est pas un pipe?
That's what it's about, right?
I couldn't even begin to figure out what it's about.
Or I mean the title itself, just those words.
Oh.
Maybe that's right, yeah.
What about you, Corey? What's next? What do you read next?
Well.
Round 4, color tab.
So, this is how far I was able to color tab. So I have to track back, and that's actually, it looks like more than half, but that's only up to page 600.
Wow.
So that's how much it flares out. But alongside that, I haven't actually read Gravity's Rainbow, and I have not read The Pale King. But I was pretty. I don't know if I had heard that there's a lot of nods to Infinite Jest, and I think I would enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah. I think that The Pale King is a much easier book than Gravity's Rainbow. I'd say Gravity's Rainbow is like one of the hardest things I've ever read, and I really don't know how much I understood it. I remember just thinking all the time, like, I don't know what's happening on this page right now at all for a lot of Gravity's Rainbow. And I did it in a course with my like grad supervisors, and I don't think either of them even finished it. One of them definitely didn't finish it. So it's like I didn't get a ton of insight, because he didn't even finish the novel. So it was like
Right.
I found it to be like one of the tougher things I've ever read. How about you, Nathan? You've read Gravity's Rainbow?
Yeah, yeah, but the first time I read it, I think I did even worse than you. I was like,
You've read it a second.
I'd be reading a scene for like 20. But I didn't get enough of it the first time around. The first time around, I was like, I'd read like 20 pages of a scene. I'd be like, wait. Are we in Germany now? Are we not in London anymore?
I know where we are. Yeah, totally. Really confusing. But there's some parts that are really funny. Like the first 100 pages, 75 pages are great. And you can track with some parts of it, and then other parts are like, no idea.
And it's based in London?
Yeah, during World War II,
Wow.
like the V-2 rockets, when Germany developed technology to fire rockets from, the mainland Europe to England. And this one guy, the protagonist, can like predict where they're gonna land based on like his erections.
Oh, I think I've heard that.
It's really silly, but kind of funny too.
Huh. Man, Nathan, so I want to ask you, this is one of the only books that I've read multiple times, but you just revealed that do you read many books multiple times?
I think I've read most Wallace's more than once now.
Okay.
I read Gravity's Rainbow twice just because I had to understand it.
Okay.
Slothrop. You need more Slothrop in your life. That's the protagonist's last name.
Yeah. I'm about to reread some Derrida for something I'm working on. I predict that's going to be very, very hard.
Oh yeah. Good luck. Did you like
But
Rob?
there's so much to read. I've got. Sorry?
Did you like Rob Short's comment to me on the last episode where we were talking about Derrida, and I was like, he's so hard to read, he's so obtuse, and Rob's like, yeah, that's by design, and I was like, I know, and I just don't think I can dig that he's intentionally being that way, and Corey, I think, tweeted that, and I thought of you, Nathan, when I was talking about it, and Rob's like, well, man, you better be careful because you're alienating like a large percentage of your audience, right? And I was like, yeah, I know, you're probably right.
That's funny. When I was listening to that, I was listening to that this a couple days ago, and when he said that you're alienating a large percentage of your audience right now, I thought, Nathan.
Yeah, totally. That's what I did. Because I know Nathan's a big Derrida guy. So Nate, when we hang out in July, I'll have to buy you a drink and be like, explain Derrida to me because I'm pretty lost. Give me the overview here.
Might have to be a lot of drinks. Might have to be a lot of drinks, Dave.
45 cents maybe. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Nathan, would you say that, well, I'm not going to get into it right now. Never mind. I was going to start talking about the little bit that I knew about Derrida. So, I've read a little bit, and it's pretty fascinating to me, but I don't fully understand it, and I also didn't really understand a lot of classics that I was asked to read that yeah, I think I like Derrida.
It's very playful.
The thing about Derrida is if you read one of his books or essays, you read it and you realize you need to read this second book or essay to understand half of what he's talking about. So you pick up that one and you realize that you have to read a third book or essay to understand half of what he's talking about in that. And then you read the third one and you discover you have to read both of the first two to understand what he's talking about in that. So you kind of have to get like the overall picture before you can really start to understand it that much. I think that's what makes Derrida the hardest, just kind of the time commitment to reading a lot.
Have you guys? I met a woman that hung out with Derrida and would go get coffee with him, and they'd have these meetings, and they'd be like on the second floor of a building, and he'd always be like, okay, we got to stop this meeting and go to the coffee shop. So like even the way he would act was in that mindset of like referencing the outside of wherever you were. So they'd like stop the meeting and then they'd go outside and down to this coffee shop and they'd have to have like a separate side conversation. Then they'd go back and have the meeting. And she said it was like fun. Like he was all about breaks.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so yeah, if you really want to get deep into all the Infinite Jest stuff, why don't you check out Derrida after Infinite Jest, especially if you're up for a challenge.
Time, structure, and play.
There you go. That's my recommendation.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Nate, are you like a critical theory junkie? Do you just love critical theory and just read tons and tons of it? I get that impression.
Actually, yeah. I've been talking to Ryan Marnane quite a bit, and he's got me into Benjamin and all the paratext stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I dig a lot of that stuff, but Derrida's my main man.
Nice. Yeah. It's really hard stuff. And I did like an undergrad critical theory class, I just did like a grad class, and I did well in it, like my mark was strong, but like I just don't know if my level of understanding of most of the critical theory canon is that great. Like it's so obtuse, a lot of it, that I'm still like I'm trying to wrap my head around so many of these pieces, right? But I love Baudrillard. Baudrillard's The Procession of Simulacrum is probably my favorite. But I digress.
I have a game I play called Phases of the Image off of Baudrillard.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. A game?
Yeah.
How do we play?
we could play it in July.
Oh good. I love games.
It could be like a weekend long game.
Cool. All right. I'll brush up.
All right. Oh man, I'm so glad that we did this. Go ahead, Nathan.
If anyone's watching and you want to get like a really high-level overview of some of this theory stuff we're talking about, I definitely recommend checking out Existential Comics. I don't know if anyone here reads that, but
okay. I will check.
Yeah. It's kind of this comic about philosophers. I think Sartre appears in most of them. But Derrida's appeared a few times, and yeah, just a lot of philosophers and like critical theory guys.
Yeah, cool. Sounds fun.
Nice.
We've gone nearly an hour and a half. Does anyone have any closing thoughts before we sign off?
Well, I'd like to just apologize again for the inaccuracies embedded in my last post. And even like my misinterpretation of that Hal comment on page 16, 17 has serious implications for the message, like the meaning of my post. So now I have to like rethink a lot of stuff. And this is really good that we talked about this today because I think even in my thesis I am taking that angle. And now I'm gonna have to like rewrite a part of my thesis, which I'm glad we.
Jesus just goes in the bin.
Yeah, so I'm glad we caught this now. Thank you, Mark, for bringing that to my attention.
Maybe it would have been better just to stay silent about it, and you'd have been cool.
Maybe, yeah. But the person who's going to be like my external reviewer is like a serious Wallace scholar, and I don't know who it is, but I have a few guesses, and they're coming to the Wallace conference in July. So if I pass my defense in July, it will be fun to hang out with them at the conference, and if they fail me, it'll be really awkward, especially if we're like on the same flight.
Are you guessing?
What's
Are
that?
you guessing Mary?
Names right now? Do you want me to
Are you
name?
guessing Mary?
No, I'm guessing. So Vancouver. So I think it's either Jeffrey Sievers or Ira Nadell, who have both published.
Oh, cool.
Are publishing on Wallace, yeah. But my supervisor, I told my supervisor those were my guesses, and he's like, "Well, I can't tell you, so keep guessing."
It seems good though. Like it seems like it'll be a struggle, but it also seems like you'll have a fresh reaction. Like if it was part of what you were writing about, it's like you're twisting now how you're seeing the whole thing, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I can salvage it, but I just have to like reframe a couple of things. Yeah. So that's good. Also, thank you guys so much for doing this with me all together. It's been so fun, and I've loved reading what you guys have written about this book and the ways that you've gotten me thinking about things I never would have thought about before. So that is a final thought. Just thank you guys. It's been great.
Oh man,
Yeah.
Dave's still my final thought.
Yeah, I guess Mark would be, since you're the organizer, Mark, that would be appropriate. But thanks for organizing this, Mark. That would be another final thought for me.
I was going to say thank you guys. I right back at you. Like reading your posts each week, every day, has been amazing, and mind broadening, and has helped me to understand the novel and read it in just a whole different way. So yeah, this has been really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Corey, you blew my mind. This specifically this last week, you blew my mind with the trash cans and the lenses, and the green is the color of solipsism, and Bruce Green is the thing that Randy lens bounces off of. I'm just like, whoa, you're killing me. It was awesome. It's really awesome. So thank you. You guys have been amazing.
Thanks a lot for bringing our group together. And I actually, in reaction to what you're saying about that last post, I've had a lot of realizations that this is the first time I've been able to keep track of reading something with a group. And like in my classes in undergrad and grad school, I'd get so lost like in the beginnings of books that I often wouldn't finish them. And so I feel like I got to really experience like, okay, I wrote something about this each week, so now how does it all piece together, and how does what all of you guys have been saying factor in, or like how, like acting as a checkpoint? And that might seem really obvious, but since that's the first time I've been able to follow along so closely, I can see how gratifying that is. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to echo everything the three of you said, and also make a huge shout out to Jenny and Ryan, who couldn't join us on the chat today, but I know they're going to have some amazing closing thoughts. So everyone should check what they say out on infinitewinter.org this week.
Amen.
Cool.
Someone, did you guys see the comment on the post yesterday? Someone like really took me to task.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't. Their tone was like fairly aggressive. So if that person's watching, like I really appreciate your comment. And it was interesting for me to think about what you're saying. But I jokingly sort of playfully responded, like, would "so say we all" be acceptable to you instead of "Amen"? In Battlestar Galactica, like that's what they say at the end of their prayers or their meetings. So say we all.
It
Definitely. Cool. Well, if no one has anything else, I think we'll wrap it up there today. Thank you so much for jumping on the call, and thank you everyone who watched and listened.
Yeah, thanks for moderating, Nate, and sorry for my audio issues earlier.
Yeah, thanks.
No worries.
Great job. Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, it's been a blast.
see you soon.
And hopefully.
See ya.